Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is ANGGITA PRAMESWARI. So today I want a presentation about solving problems and storytelling. This is first problem and equation, and this is my answer. The first is lexical choices or word selection and loaded language. From a stylistic and CDF perspective, specific word choices can significantly influence readers' perception of people or events. Journalists may use emotionally charged or evaluative language to create a positive or negative impression. And this is the example. An impact on bias is lexical bias subtly aligns readers with a particular ideological stance by framing action in certain light. And the second is framing and presupposition. Pragmatics examines how meaning is constructed through context. Journalists may use presuppositions or implicators that assume certain viewpoints or values as given, and this is an example. An impact on bias is frames the subject in a way that manipulates interpretation through hidden assumption. And the third is syntactic structure and passive voice. Critical discourse analysis and statistics show how sentence structure affects agency as responsibility, and this is an example. An impact on bias is hides or shift blames and can protect certain actors from scrutiny. Sorry. And this is problem number 2. And this is the question. And my answer is the first, implement multilingual education in early schooling, or MTB education, mother tongue based. The government can introduce indigenous language as the primary medium or instruction in the early years of schooling, particularly in regions where these languages are still actively spoken. As students progress, the curriculum can gradually introduce the national language and potentially an international language. And the next is developing teaching materials and curriculum content in indigenous language. The first is written resource, the next is digital media, and the next is audio-visual materials. Standardizing orthography and developing vocabularies for academic subject will support corpus planning and make this language usable in formal educational contexts. The next is train and empower local teachers from indigenous communities. The government should create specialized teacher training programs that prepare educators who are fluent in indigenous language and culturally familiar with their student communities. The next is integrate indigenous language and cultures into the broader curriculum. Beyond teaching the language itself, the curriculum should include traditional literature and oral storytelling. The next is local knowledge system. The next is art and performance traditions. By doing this, school can become sites of cultural transmissions as well as academic learning. And the last is institutional and legal support through public policy. The first is to recognize indigenous language as part of the national heritage in the constitution or education law. The next is provide financial support for implementation and monitor and evaluate language rehabilitation efforts with linguistic and community leaders. Public policy must also ensure that education ministries collaborate with local communities to develop and adjust language education plan based on the needs and realities of each region. The next is I want to start telling about my last semester. My last semester assigned is I had one of the most memorable experience as a student of English literature as part of our project. I I was involved in a community service program that aimed to introduce basic English to children living in Kampung Pemulung. Our mission was simple but meaningful to bring language learning to children who rarely have access to properly English education. We were accompanied by one of uh, children together without basic English vocabulary, colors, animals, greetings, and simple daily expressions, using a fun method like games, songs, and storytelling. After the event, I was assigned to write a news article about that activity. The first, I thought writing news it would be easy, since I was already familiar with English and used to academic writing. But when I started working on it, I realized that writing for public readers, especially in a journalistic context, requires a very different set of linguistic skills. So I had to consider these elements while writing. I used a clear and informative style, avoided overly complex vocabulary, and tried to maintain an objective tone. That process taught me how language can be used strategically to inform. And so, finally, my article was published on UBSI official news website. Seeing my article published online was a proud moment. It showed me how applied linguistics is not just theory, but something very real, something we use when we speak, write, teach, and report. It also reminded me that language is power. The power is to educate, to represent, and to make a difference. So today, finally, it is my presentation and my storytelling about that. Uh, Thank you for your attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.